Goro Itajuki arrives at a remote farm on the edge of a village with only one goal in mind: to kill the man living there. But this is not just some random farmer. He is actually one of the criminals Goro has been hunting for the past 10 years. To understand why Goro became such a ruthless killer, we need to go back to his past. Years earlier, Goro worked as a police officer in Shinjuku. Everything changed after a gang of robbers murdered his girlfriend while he was on duty. The people responsible for her death became the targets of his revenge. The trauma completely destroyed the man he used to be. Goro slowly turned into a brutal vigilante who hunted down criminals one by one, using his own methods. After finally killing every member of the gang, he was eventually arrested by the police. But instead of putting him on trial, the authorities gave him a terrifying offer. He could escape all charges and even avoid the death penalty, but only if he accepted a dangerous undercover mission. Goro was ordered to infiltrate one of the most violent Yakuza organizations in Japan, a gang known as Hell Dogs. The mission came directly from Police Chief Anai, who wanted Goro to enter the organization and eliminate the powerful figures running it from the inside. From that moment on, Goro stepped into the world of Hell Dogs. The police had been unable to touch Hell Dogs for years because the organization controlled countless illegal operations, including the ivory trade built on elephant killings across multiple countries. Since legal methods had failed, Goro was chosen to destroy them through bloodshed. To help him survive inside the gang, the police paired him with Hideki Maruka, one of the most feared and violent members of Hell Dogs. The reason was simple. Goro and Muro had personalities that were almost identical. Both men were cold, brutal, and extremely dangerous, making them the perfect partners for each other. To protect his identity, Goro was given a new name, Shogo Kanataka. A few months later, he successfully entered Hell Dogs without raising suspicion. Not long after joining the organization, Goro and Muro received their first mission together. They were ordered to eliminate one of the gang's rivals. Just as the police expected, the two men worked together perfectly. Their chemistry was so natural that they quickly became as close as brothers. After completing the mission, Goro reported directly to Tsutomu Toki, the leader of Hell Dogs. Tsutomu and his girlfriend, Emiri, were both impressed by Goro's abilities and immediately recognized his value to the organization. But not everyone felt the same way. Another high-ranking member named Slick constantly looked down on both Goro and Muro. Despite acting tough, Slick was nothing more than a spoiled brat who lacked the fighting skills and toughness that the two men possessed. After finishing his business, Goro heads to a traditional massage parlor, but he is not there just to relax. The real reason for his visit is Noriko, another undercover operative sent by Police Chief Anai to infiltrate Hell Dogs from the inside. Like Goro, Noriko has her own personal mission. She has spent years waiting for the chance to kill Chuji, one of the organization's leaders who murdered her son 8 years earlier. While Goro continues working undercover, Noriko quietly prepares for her revenge. At the same time, Muro is out spending time with a woman named Anna. Before joining Hell Dogs, Anna used to work alongside him in a group called Fedra, and the two still remain close. Later that night, after returning home from the massage parlor, Goro suddenly notices someone secretly entering his house. The intruder turns out to be Emiri, the girlfriend of Hell Dogs leader Tsutomu Toki. But this is not a random visit. It is revealed that Goro and Emiri have been secretly involved with each other behind Tsutomu's back. The next day, Goro and Muro receive another dangerous assignment. They are ordered to protect a businessman named Yoshitaka Toke, the mastermind behind the illegal ivory trade that the police have been trying to expose for years. Chuji is also present at the meeting, putting him even closer to Noriko's reach. But before Goro and Muro can officially become Toke's bodyguards, they are forced to prove themselves in a deadly trial against Chuji's men. In the world of the Yakuza, loyalty is meaningless without strength, and survival always comes first. After passing the brutal test, Goro and Muro officially become part of Toke's security team alongside his secretary Hiroki. From that point on, they accompany Toke everywhere, including his operations tied to the ivory trade. Eventually, Toke brings them to a sacred location known as the House of Bamboo. The place is meant to become a retirement sanctuary for aging Yakuza members. But Toke's dream can only happen if he succeeds in eliminating his rival, a man named George. That same night, Muro goes out with Anna to hang around with some friends at a local shop. The atmosphere is relaxed, and for once he gets to enjoy himself like a normal person. But during the gathering, Muro overhears a story that immediately catches his attention. People begin talking about a police officer who spent 11 years hunting down the robbers responsible for killing his girlfriend and several innocent victims. They describe how the officer personally killed every criminal involved, while secretly sending money to the victims' families every month out of guilt and responsibility. The man they are talking about is none other than Goro Itajuki himself. Meanwhile, Goro passes through the same area where he once worked as a police officer 11 years earlier. Out of nowhere, one of the officers stationed there suddenly recognizes him and calls out his real name. Back in Shinjuku, Goro Itajuki is still remembered as a legendary hero by the local community. But now, while living undercover as Shogo Kanataka, that recognition becomes extremely dangerous. Hearing people shout his name in public immediately puts him on edge, because even the smallest mistake could expose his true identity to hell dogs. A few days later, Goro, Muro, and Hiroki are assigned to escort Toke once again, this time to meet one of his business partners at a bar. The moment they arrive, the atmosphere quickly turns hostile. Toke discovers that his associate, Eiji, has secretly been maintaining ties with George's family behind his back. Furious over the betrayal, Toke pressures Eiji into cutting ties with George and switching sides in exchange for a huge amount of money. After the tense confrontation finally settles down, everyone tries to relax with karaoke and drinks while being accompanied by several women. But in the middle of the celebration, Goro suddenly becomes suspicious of one of the women there. Sensing that something is wrong, he tests her by asking her to drink something that was supposedly prepared for Toke. That single move immediately exposes her. The woman suddenly pulls out a weapon and attempts to assassinate Toke on the spot. Fortunately, Goro and Muro are already prepared for situations like this, and the two of them react instantly, killing the assassin before she can complete the attack. Afterward, the captured woman is taken to an abandoned building for interrogation. Goro and the others try to force her to reveal who sent her to kill Toke, but no matter how much pressure she faces, she refuses to say a single word. Then everything suddenly changes. The team outside the building reports that armed men are moving in fast. It turns out the entire situation was a setup from the beginning. Bringing the assassin there was part of a trap orchestrated by Eiji. Caught completely off guard, Goro and Muro do everything they can to protect Toke. With barely any preparation, they are forced into a brutal firefight against waves of armed attackers. The situation becomes so desperate that even Toke himself is forced to join the battle just to stay alive. Despite the overwhelming odds, Goro and Muro's combat skills allow them to survive the assault and wipe out the attackers. But the victory comes with a heavy price. During the brutal ambush, Hiroki is killed. After surviving the brutal ambush, Muro and the rest of the Hell Dogs waste no time retaliating against Eiji for betraying them. Meanwhile, Eiji is completely unaware that his plan has failed. Believing that Toki and the others were already killed by his men, he relaxes at home, enjoying the money he received from Toke while acting as if everything is over. But before he realizes what is happening, the entire Hell Dogs organization surrounds his house. Within moments, everyone inside is slaughtered, including Eiji himself. The next day, a funeral is held to honor Hiroki's death. Members of Hell Dogs, their families, and business associates all gather to pay their respects. But during the ceremony, the situation suddenly takes a dangerous turn. One of Slick's subordinates mentions something shocking about Goro Itajuki, the legendary police hero from Shinjuku. The man reveals that he recently saw local residents calling out Goro's real name while he was passing through the city. At that moment, Goro's cover as Shogo Kanataka is no longer safe. Still during the funeral, Tsutomu Toki suddenly asks Goro and Toke to step away from the crowd for a private conversation. It turns out Tsutomu wants to punish Toke for Hiroki's death, believing his mistakes led to the tragedy. Toke's men immediately become furious and prepare to attack Tsutomu for laying hands on their boss. But instead of escalating the conflict, Tsutomu decides to take responsibility in traditional Yakuza fashion by cutting off one of his own fingers as an apology. Before he can do it, Goro knocks Tsutomu unconscious to stop him. Deep down, even Toke admits that Hiroki's death was partly his fault, and Goro does not want the situation to spiral even further. After the funeral ends and most people leave, Slick suddenly storms in and begins blaming Goro for Hiroki's death. Muro quickly steps in because he cannot stand the way Slick constantly disrespects Goro. Already fueled by anger, Muro completely loses control and attempts to kill Slick on the spot. Desperate to save himself, Slick finally reveals the truth. According to Slick, Goro is an undercover cop sent to infiltrate Helldogs. But Muro is too furious to listen carefully. Without fully processing the accusation, he kills Slick immediately. The chaos does not end there. Right after Slick dies, one of his bodyguards attacks Muro from behind and stabs him with a knife. A savage fight breaks out in the middle of the mourning period, with both sides stabbing and attacking each other in pure rage. In the end, Muro barely survives. When Goro finally reaches him, the badly wounded Muro desperately asks whether Slick was telling the truth about him being an undercover police officer sent to destroy Helldogs. Even though his identity is already close to being exposed, Goro refuses to answer directly. Instead, he tells Muro to get out of there immediately before the rest of Helldogs begins hunting him down. A few days later, Police Chief Anai visits Goro at his home and urges him to move quickly. With his undercover identity already at risk, Anai wants him to eliminate the remaining founders of Helldogs before everything falls apart. But in the middle of their conversation, Emiri suddenly arrives at the house, making the situation even more dangerous and complicated. What Goro does not realize is that Emiri has also been working undercover inside Helldogs this entire time, just like him. Meanwhile, after barely surviving the brutal fight, Muro heads to the workplace of one of Ana's friends. He is desperate to confirm whether the legendary police hero, Goro Itajuki, is truly the same person as Shogo Kanataka, the man he has trusted like a brother. At the same time, the final phase of the mission is finally ready to begin. After years of infiltrating Helldogs, Goro, Emiri, and Noriko are all ordered to carry out their ultimate assignments. Goro is tasked with assassinating Toki, the powerful figure controlling the entire Helldogs Yakuza operation. Emiri receives orders to kill Tsutomu Toki, the current leader of Helldogs, and for Noriko, her mission is deeply personal. She is finally going to kill Chuji, the man responsible for murdering her son 8 years earlier. Emiri approaches Tsutomu to carry out the assassination. But before she can act, Tsutomu suddenly lashes out at her in anger. It turns out he already knows about her secret relationship with Goro behind his back. Even though her life is now hanging by a thread, Emiri stays calm. Little by little, she manages to inject the poison she has been hiding, finally killing Tsutomu. Elsewhere, Noriko arrives at Chuji's residence and behaves exactly as she always has for the past 8 years. She quietly massages his back, making him completely lower his guard. And the moment Chuji becomes fully vulnerable, Noriko finally takes her revenge and kills him with ease. Elsewhere, Goro finally prepares to carry out his mission and eliminate Toke. But before the fight begins, Toke reveals a shocking secret he has been hiding all this time. Just like Goro, Toke was once an undercover police officer sent to infiltrate Helldogs. That is why he already knows Goro's true identity from the very beginning. But instead of exposing him, Toke offers Goro something completely different. He tries to convince him to join forces so they can take control of every Yakuza clan across Japan and run the criminal underworld together. Unfortunately for Toke, Goro has absolutely no interest in becoming part of that world. The conversation quickly turns violent, and the two men launch into a brutal battle using guns and whatever weapons they can get their hands on. Eventually, Goro manages to end the duel by snapping the tendons in Toke's neck, finally killing him. But the nightmare is still far from over. After learning the truth about Goro being an undercover cop, Muro tracks down Emiri after she assassinates Tsutomu Toki and takes her hostage. He then sends a message demanding that Goro come alone to the House of Bamboo for one final showdown. When Goro finally arrives, Muro forces him into an impossible choice between saving Emiri or standing by his side. Deep down, Muro still wants to believe their bond is real. Despite everything that happened, he still sees Goro as the brother he never had. But Goro no longer hesitates. Even though Muro genuinely cared about him like family, Goro chooses his mission over their relationship and shoots him without mercy. At the very end of the film, the story flashes back to 1 year earlier, before Goro ever infiltrated Hell Dogs. Back then, Goro had already crossed paths with both Muro and Toke inside a bar in Bangkok. It is revealed that Goro never joined Hell Dogs simply to earn forgiveness from Police Chief Anai for his past murders. His true goal was much bigger than that. Ever since losing the woman he loved, Goro had become obsessed with wiping out criminals, gangsters, and Yakuza organizations that had taken control of Japan. And in the end, he willingly entered the largest Yakuza organization in the country for one reason only: to destroy them all from the inside. So the moral of the story is never trust a guy who says, "We're like brothers," after committing 47 murders together, because one of you is probably an undercover cop.